chance more often.
The Secretary of State's fourth peace mission to the Middle East is over, and there are no deals. A first look at some high-tech wizardry that helped win the war against Saddam. And American forces hit the beaches of Bangladesh. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. For the fourth time in 2 months, Secretary of State Baker is heading home from a Middle East peace mission with nothing to show for it. Baker says he is not disappointed. A spokesman for President Bush insists the window is still open, there's still room for hope, and that this does not mean that post-war diplomacy has been bungled. Bill Plant in Washington has the latest. Bill?
Dan, Baker left Jerusalem empty-handed after failing once again to get any agreement on a Middle East peace conference between the Arabs and Israel. There was absolutely no progress whatsoever on getting all of the parties to sit down and talk, but Baker refuses to give up.
I believe that there is a chance to produce a process which can result in direct negotiations between Israel and Arab states.
Despite 4 rounds of U.S. diplomacy, Israel and Syria remain hung up, refusing to compromise on how a conference would be organized and on what role the United Nations would play. But neither wants to be blamed for the failure of the talks. And in that spirit, Israel's prime minister said late today he did reach agreements with Baker, but he couldn't announce them yet. That was probably a reference to the fact that there was a breakthrough in the argument over exactly which Palestinians Israel will allow to come to the conference.
The Palestinian representation problem seems to have been solved. That was the Gordian knot that held up negotiations for 10 years.
But even if that difficult question is settled, many skeptics still believe that both Syria and Israel are more comfortable with things just as they are.
Assad is now stronger. Hussein's still in Baghdad. The Israelis have no reason to believe that the Arabs want peace with them at all as a consequence of what they saw during the war.
Before Baker left on this trip, White House officials were saying that this was the last chance. Well, don't bet the farm on that. Despite the failure of this trip so far, there is every reason to believe that either Baker will try again, go back once more, or that the president will decide to call a peace conference of his own. Both men hate to lose. Dan?
Thanks, Bill. CBS News has obtained pictures of a secret weapon of the Persian Gulf War, a weapon that played a key role for U.S. forces in their first major battle. Defense Department correspondent David Martin has our report.
It was probably the most unlikely secret weapon of the war, a converted 707 called J-Stars, a name as unwieldy as its shape. It was not supposed to go into operation until 1997. The 2 experimental models were rushed to Saudi Arabia just 4 days before the start of Operation Desert Storm. Flying at night, its radar looked behind enemy lines, telling Allied commanders exactly what was happening as it was happening. Newly released videotapes show how J-Stars pierced the fog of war. Each white dot is a vehicle or group of vehicles moving across the desert. An American column was pushing north into Kuwait when J-Stars spotted another column on its flank. Was it the Iraqi army springing a trap or part of the Allied invasion force? The Americans hunkered down in defensive positions and sent out a reconnaissance patrol to make sure it was friendly. When Marines suddenly found themselves in a firefight at the Saudi Arabian town of Khafji, they didn't know what they were up against until J-Stars told them.
I was able to tell the people taking charge of the situation what really they were dealing with. Only a probing situation, wasn't a major attack going down into Saudi Arabia at the time or down into Khafji.
When Saddam's mother of all battles turned into the mother of all retreats, J-Stars watched as the Iraqi army fled north. These white lines here that look like roads on a map are in fact bumper-to-bumper vehicles?
That's correct. Be heavy flow of vehicles on those roads.
Using J-Stars to guide them, American pilots turned the retreat into a turkey shoot. For almost any other military in the world, J-Stars would be prohibitively expensive. $7 billion to buy just 20 planes. One of the challenges of the 90s will be keeping technologies like J-Stars alive, while at the same time reducing defense spending. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
A U.S. military mercy task force in Bangladesh swung into action